Welcome, students and the viewers. Today we'll study the passive voice, active voice. Now, first, let's see what is this voice. VOIC. What's this voice? What do you understand by voice? Okay, I tell you. Voice is the form of verb. Any sentence, every sentence has a verb, a finite verb, and the verb tells us whether the subject of our sentence is doing something, does something, or it is active, or the verb tells us that something is done to the subject, or something is being done to the subject. That means that is the form of a verb which tells us whether whether in our sentence, the subject does something or something is done to the subject. That is its voice. If something is done to our subject, it is in the passive voice. And if the subject does something, then it is in the active voice. So, here you can say that form of verb which tells us whether the subject of the sentence is doing something or does something or something is done to the subject. That is the active or passive voice of that verb. That is, the verb is in the active or passive voice. Then next, we'll see that where to use these sentences, where to use the active voice and where to use the passive voice. If the subject of the sentence does something and it is necessary for us to bring him in the limelight or show the doer of the action, then the active voice is preferred. And where we don't have any kind of importance to the doer of the action, then passive voice. Like, for instance, suppose someone gets arrested. We all know who arrests. Can anyone else other than the police arrest anyone? No. Now, here the important thing is that the person who got arrested is important. So we just say that the thief was arrested. By whom we need not to say. It's understood that the police must have arrested the thief. But when we say that who built a particular monument, the name of the architect, that's important for us to say and make it clear than the active voice. Now, just to, instead of develop on this, that how this passive voice is made or how the change, I recommend that first the learner should cram or say memorize first 16 into 3 sentences of tenses that are in which passive voice is possible. We have 12 tenses and in 4 of them passive voice is not possible. That is the perfect continuous tenses and a future continuous tense. So, we have now 8 tenses in which the passive voice are possible. So, now here I am just speaking out the sentences, how you should cram them first. Then if you understand try to understand the passive voice, it will be very easy for you. So here they are. I am saying these sentences with the verb write. So this is the conjugation of the verb write. He writes a letter is written by him. He is writing a letter is being written by him. He has written a letter has been written by him. He wrote a letter was written by him. He was writing a letter was being written by him. He had written a letter had been written by him. He will write a letter will be written by him. He will have written a letter will have been written by him. Now, the negatives. He does not write a letter is not written by him. He is not writing a letter is not being written by him. He has not written a letter has not been written by him. He did not write a letter was not written by him. He was not writing a letter was not being written by him. He had not written a letter had not been written by him. He will not write a letter will not be written by him. He will not have written a letter will have not been written by him. Okay, then the interrogative. Does he write a letter? Is a letter written by him? Is he writing a letter? Is a letter being written by him? Has he written a letter? Has a letter been written by him? Did he write a letter? Was a letter written by him? Was he writing a letter? Was a letter being written by him? Had he written a letter? Had a letter been written by him? Will he write a letter? Will a letter be written by him? Will he have written a letter? Will a letter have been written by him? That's all. There are 48 sentences, 24 of active voice and 24 of passive voice. Then these sentences should come out of your mouth as a unit, as a single unit, as a single vocabulary unit. You should not be in a position to think that what will come. If you are doing that, that means you have not mastered these sentences. Correct? So that's the best way. First, you should know this. Now, when you have done this, then you have to come to the passive voice. And remember that before studying passive voice, you should know the tenses, or say these sentences, at least these 8 sentences well. Then only you are equipped, well equipped to study passive voice. Got it? Now we'll make some sentences. Suppose I say here the same sentence we will. He writes a letter. He writes a letter. Now here this is he is the subject, writes verb, a letter is the object. Now here our subject he does something. What does he do? He writes a letter. So this is active. So this is in the active voice. That means the verb writes is in the active voice. The passive, we just have to take the object here. That means a letter and the verb you will have to change. So a letter is written. By, and this he was there, him. So he is changed into him. Now this verb is written is in the passive voice and the sentence is in the passive voice. So the structure of the sentence, of the passive sentence of present simple is subject plus is R M plus third form plus, if we require, by agent and the objective case of the subject, that is him over here. Now suppose I just want to use these in front of you. If I say he beats me, then it becomes I am beaten by him. Suppose he writes letters, then letters are written by him. So you can use all three of them. That means here, by looking at this point, you can draw, you can deduct from this observation that in all the passive voice, the passive form of to be plus the third form is used in all the passive voice. You'll notice that the to be, that means to be is what? Is are, am, then was, were, then been. So if any one of these are there in the sentence plus the third form, that means the sentence will be in the passive. In active forms, this may come in the continuous tenses. This may come in the continuous tenses. Correct? But in the passive form, this plus the third form, and here being also. So this is how you can recognize the passive voice sentences and the active voice sentences, and then you can change them. First, we must do the verbs with one object, then two objects, then object and a complement, then object plus a participle, or sentences with gerunds, imperative sentences. All types of sentences we have to practice. So today I just want to say that you must all be able to recognize a sentence and say whether it is in the active voice or in the passive voice. This is the first task. When you know, you should know that which tense the sentence is and what its voice. Then you will be well equipped to change it. If you understand that, you are in a position to change it. So first, today's lesson is memorize those 48 sentences nicely. Then tomorrow we'll do the exercises and we'll see that how we do that. Correct? Okay. This much for today, and I'm just telling you that all that is uploaded in these videos will get the Hindi version of it in 3 days after. 3 days after, we'll upload the Hindi version also. This will go on as it is. So those who like the content and the way how I am teaching, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.